I'll tell you, if you want my opinion, if Olivia Chow gets in, it'll be unmitigated disaster. Taxes are going to go up 25 to 30% when people can't afford the rent, can't afford mortgages now. Businesses are going to be fleeing Toronto as far as I'm concerned.
John Tory and Doug Ford, they don't get to decide this election.
Torontonians are voting as we speak to elect their next mayor. As you saw in those clips there, the frontrunner, former NDP MP Olivia Chow, appears set for maybe a tense relationship with Premier Doug Ford if she wins tonight. Whomever wins will take on management of Canada's largest city and pick up a constituency bigger than that of many premiers. Let's bring in our front bench to unpack what's politically at stake here. Maryam Monsef is the CEO of Onward and a former Liberal cabinet minister. Melanie Paradis is former communications director to Erin O'Toole. She's now the president of Texture Communications. Kathleen Monk is former director of communications to Jack Layton, Olivia Chow's late husband. She's in Toronto this week as a friend of the campaign and, of course, the principal owner of Monk and Associates. And Laura Stone is a Queen's Park reporter for the Globe and Mail. Hi, everybody.
Hey there.
Good to see you. Happy
Hi.
Monday. Laura, I'll start with you because I know you were covering those comments all last week. Tell us a bit about the context around them and if you anticipate they will make a difference tonight.
Well, I think it's been really interesting to see the evolution of Premier Ford's comments about this race. I mean, he started off saying, I'm not getting involved, I'm not picking sides in this, but we just can't elect a lefty and we have to choose someone who's tough on crime and will keep taxes low. But I'm not saying who that is. And then all of a sudden it's, Olivia Chow specifically, as we heard in that clip, will be a disaster. And then last Friday, we had that surprise robocall from Premier Ford on behalf of Mark Saunders, explicitly telling people to vote for him in tonight's race. So there really has been a change from the outset of this campaign. I don't think the Premier or his inner circle is under any illusions that that call is going to substantially change things. I mean, according to the polls and the way this race is going, it doesn't look like Mark Saunders is headed for the mayoral seat, if it were. I mean, the clear race at this moment looks like to be between Olivia Chow and Anna Bailau, who is endorsed by John Tory and who has served as the deputy mayor and is a longtime city councillor. But I think it will be fascinating to see how the Premier reacts to this. If we're going to get the Premier who has said in the past as well he's willing to work with anyone, he wants to find common ground, or if he's going to come out as that more aggressive side, someone who says, now that Olivia Chow is mayor, if she is to win tonight, it will be a disaster, and this is how I'm going to try to change things at City Hall. So he actually does have a press conference outside of Toronto near Cambridge, Ontario tomorrow. So it'll be interesting to see which side of himself he presents, because he's sort of been all over the map during this campaign.
I'd be surprised. He has a very unique kind of political brand, Kathleen. I'd be surprised if he said anything overly negative if, in fact, Olivia Chow does win the race tomorrow morning. But at the same time, I've been saying all day in various discussions, like I've covered a lot of mayoral races. I lived in Alberta where premiers and the mayors of cities were often at odds. I've never quite heard a premier like single out a candidate in the way that the premier did in that clip that we aired.
Yeah, he unleashed his all, right? He put his hand on the scale and brought out the fear factor against Olivia Chow from day one, with his desired candidate Mark Sanders, and basically has been running the whole time in this time of this by-election against Chow with comments like you just played. But the reality is that the city itself wants change. The city wants a mayor it can be proud of. The city wants to move on past like a decade of decline and a lack of investment. And I think Chow really represents that for Torontonians. And so I think Premier Ford has to be careful. And I think we will see a change in tone tomorrow. And why is that? Because first of all, there's a lot of overlap in the city of Toronto and Ford's own caucus and in fact, his own cabinet with ministers who actually, whether it's Scarborough or Etobicoke, who come from this city and will in the future be represented by Olivia Chow. So that's one thing to think about. But I think more importantly, it's the policy intersections. We're thinking about things like housing, transit, crime, safety. These are all things that both Premier Ford and Olivia Chow want to move forward on. In fact, also the federal government as well. So I think we're really going to see, I think we kind of have really not thought about how Chow will actually flip the script on this. And in fact, will actually find ways to work with the Premier and find ways to work with the Prime Minister to move things forward for Toronto. And she's shown that in the past, frankly, whether her working with members of Harper's cabinet, like she did on the gas tax or immigration files, or how she's worked locally in terms of moving things forward when she was at city council or when she was a school trustee. So she's cooperative, and I think she wants the best for the city, and I think she'll find a way to move it forward. And Ford would be smart to cooperate as well. It's the biggest city, so important.
Yeah. My guess is whomever, and I don't want to pronounce the winner yet. I know that Olivia Chow is certainly leading in the polls, Miriam, but there are 101 other people, in fact, who are running against her for that job. I imagine whomever is in that role will have to work with the Premier and vice versa. And the kind of political example that comes to mind first and foremost is the degree to which the current Prime Minister and the current Premier of Ontario did not like each other and often, ran against each other, even though they technically weren't in various campaigns. And now they couldn't be, they're BFFs when it comes to working together.
Yeah, it turns out when governing, individuals have more in common than they do while they're campaigning. And Mr. Ford has shown that above all else, he's a pragmatist and he's willing to work with anyone. And Kathleen is absolutely right. Toronto is a big deal for a number of reasons. I encourage all Torontonians to go out and vote tonight, because who you vote for makes a world of difference for the rest of the country. I live in Peterborough. I'm in Langley right now. But if a butterfly flaps its wings in Toronto, we feel it. So make a good choice, Toronto. And I think in the event that there is a progressive candidate replacing Mr. Tory as mayor of Toronto, what Mr. Ford and political advisors will have around him is someone to continue to govern against. So in the event that taxes go up or not enough housing gets built, there is someone to blame and say, well, if only so-and-so would use their strong mayor powers, or if only so-and-so would reduce taxes. So it'll be interesting to see what happens tonight, but I suspect that no matter what, Mr. Ford will work with whoever is elected tonight.
Last word to you on this, Melanie.
Well, I think that Doug Ford has a really solid record of working with anyone, any leader across party lines, we've had the example already of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, but more recently, we've seen Andrea Horwath, who was the leader of the NDP provincially, run two really difficult campaigns against each other over the past 5 years. And now she's the mayor of Hamilton, and they got on just fine. So I think this will very quickly be water under the bridge. It's just campaigning. At the end of the day, Doug Ford just cares about getting things done for Ontarians, and he'll work with anyone in order to achieve that. And he's got a solid track record of doing it.
Yeah, I guess we will see, depending, again, I don't like to pronounce before the outcome of the race, depending on what happens.